Hi everyone, this is Astrologer Tisch Aitken, and I'm here to discuss the Spring Equinox and all that's taking place this week astrologically. This is a pivotal week with many shifts, definitely one of the biggest weeks of the year. I think the first being the week of January, when January 12th occurred. We had the lunar eclipse on January 10th that led up to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction on January 12th, which we will be working with the entire year. And that was at the world axis. And that is about death and rebirth and renovation and restructuring on a very global level, which we're obviously seeing in our own lives and on the world stage. Now, going forward to this week, Jupiter, which is the planet of abundance and expansion, is currently at 22 degrees of Capricorn, and triggering that story of Pluto and Saturn at the beginning of the year. It's amplifying it. Jupiter happens to be in its fall in Capricorn. It's not the best placement. It is still a benefic, and it does bring opportunities, and it is going to meet up with Pluto on March 20th, but which is an aspect usually of good fortune. But again, it can augment and exaggerate the story right now, which I think that it is going to do. So I think that so the spring equinox occurs on March 19th at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's going to be, that's when the sun enters 0 degrees of Aries, and that's the astrological new year. And astrologers cast a chart for the equinox or for solstice charts, depending on the beginning of whatever season it is. A glimpse of the next few months. And the equinox chart has Scorpio ascendant, therefore Pluto is the modern ruler, Mars is the ancient ruler, and they both happen to be in Capricorn. And we look at where the stellium of Capricorn falls, and it happens to fall in the second house of income and money and how we earn income, how we earn money. It's the house of banking. It's the Taurus house in astrology, and it's what is of value. And with this alignment in Capricorn, there certainly is going to be major restructuring with the banking system, with money, with how each of us earns money. And also perhaps this year with all that's happening and major life changes for all of us, because Saturn and Pluto pairing together, setting the narrative for the entire year, and now getting triggered by Mars and Jupiter and all these planets, now and later in the year by various planets. This is something where we are all going through major transitions in our lives. And so, this equinox chart for me represents the fact that with all these planets in Capricorn, it's not going to be easy, but it is a cardinal sign, which is action oriented. And when the sun enters Aries, that's a cardinal fire sign. That's enthusiastic. It's a sign of new beginnings. The equinox has so the major Capricorn alignment again is in the second house. It's also creative, the second house, because it's ruled by Venus in astrology. So, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So it's very creative. So it's also coming up with creative ways to make money in this time. Venus, we have a lot of planets at the world axis. We've got Jupiter and Mars will be at the world axis because they meet up directly the following day on March 20th. Pluto is at 24 degrees of Capricorn, so that's close to the world axis. And Venus, the planet of love and beauty, and money, is at 15 degrees of Taurus, and any planet at 15 degrees of the fixed signs is also at the world axis. So that packs a big punch and makes it very potent. And Venus falls in the sixth house of work and service in this chart. So I think also being of service to others, working hard in this time, because we have a lot of cardinal energy that makes it easier to get things done. But Mercury is also in Pisces, and it's going to be in Pisces until April 11th, and Mercury is in its detriment in Pisces. We went through a very foggy and challenging Mercury in retrograde, with it retrograding initially at 12 degrees of Pisces and then stationing at the final degrees of Aquarius. And it now just re-entered Pisces on Monday, March 16th, and it will be there, as I mentioned, until April 11th. And that's a foggy placement. It's not the best, it's not the most ideal with what we have to contend with, but we have to deal, maybe it's good for being creative and imaginative. And I think we also need to tune out. And, I had parents that were old enough to have lived in the Depression. And my father told me that he was very, very poor during the Depression. And so his way of tuning out as a child, it was very inexpensive to go to the movies. So kids of all socioeconomic backgrounds were able to at least have a day of fantasy and joy at the movies. Nobody was excluded from that. And I think now with the Neptunian energy, Neptune is in its rulership, we're going to be in times of restructuring and renovation. We need to find times that are also going to find ways to tap into our imagination and creativity and joy that any of us can have access to during times where we're really going to have to restructure our lives and deal with heavy issues. And in your own lives, what stories are coming up for you in terms of what you need to restructure, what is no longer of value, or what is keeping you from living a life of value? Well, if anything, this is a very existential year where you really start to examine and weigh what is of importance and what matters. And I think that realistically, if you're not doing what you enjoy, or you're in relationships that don't align with what you want, that you might consider taking a serious look, because if you work with a Capricorn energy that is very strong until December, Saturn is going to ultimately change signs for good in December on the winter solstice. It's going to enter the sign of Aquarius. Well, it enters Aquarius on December 17th, and it meets up with Jupiter, but that's for another video because I'm just trying to keep it together for this one. But, you want to examine what's working and what's not. And if ever a time that's going to be very clear, it's 2020. So I wish you a lot of luck, hindsight, but also looking forward. And thank you. Take care.